us today. We have a very diverse audience from different parts of the world, different continents, different provinces in Canada, different countries. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We also thank I want to acknowledge some my colleagues here. Harry Madusha, the president of the Nova Scotia IIBA chapter. Rooney is also one of the board members. He's a vice president for events, online events. Good evening. Yeah, good evening all once again for those that are just joining. Today we're going to be learning about AI trends and business analysis. And our guest again today is Yulia Kosharenko. Yulia, I hope I didn't murder that name. Please pardon me if I did. I practiced a whole lot before the session. Yeah, please. Yulia, if you know her very well, she's a very experienced conference speaker, consultant, corporate trainer, and I must say, an avid writer. I read a lot of her articles on LinkedIn, on Medium, and they've helped me a whole lot. She's author of books too, and I'm sure she might share one or two of those books. We've given out some of her books as prizes on during some of our chapter events. But I'm sure Yulia will tell us more about her books at the end of today's presentation. So part of the learning outcomes today is for us to learn about the main AI trends that we as business analysts we need to understand. She's also going to be telling us the reasons why AI initiative failed and how a business analyst can help mitigate some of this failure. How can we apply business analysis practices to support our organization in implementing AI initiatives? Also, she's going to be highlighting business analysis skills that are essential for AI success. I'll just quickly tell us a little bit about Yulia. I believe I've mentioned that, but let me read through her bio. Yulia is the author of the book called Business Analyst: A Profession and a Mindset. She's a conference speaker. She's a consultant, corporate trainer. She's the owner of she's the owner of Why Change Consulting Incorporated. Yulia helps her clients grow mature enterprise architecture and business analysis practices. She helps them to plan and execute digital transformation programs. Yulia is also the professor of business analytics at Humber College. She encourages her students to look for ways to solve business problems using analytics. As a business analysis mentor, Yulia leads the Business Analysis Mindset Mentorship Circle, where she encourages BAs to learn, adapt, and thrive. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to make welcome our speaker for this evening, Yulia Kozarenko. Yulia, welcome.
Thank you so much, Olga, for introduction, and thanks everyone for inviting me. And Ronnie, I love your video background. You are the master of videos. I'm really happy today to share this topic with you. Let me just share my screen and we'll talk a little bit about AI from the lens of business analysis. So let me just move all of these. Oh. Everything is okay, you can see, yeah? Perfect. So what I wanted to talk about is what does it mean truly to apply AI to business problems, and how business analysts can help, and what is our role, because there is a lot of hype about AI, and sometimes we get a little bit too excited and we forget to look at the foundations. So we really need to figure out how we can help our business stakeholders to truly take advantage of it. Okay, so we'll talk today about business analysis for AI, but also AI for business analysis. What is AI? What is artificial intelligence? First of all, it's a really broad field under computer science umbrella that is focused on development of computer systems that can do what human beings can do. So really, if you think about any typical activity that you do throughout your day, you look around, you recognize pictures, you listen to music, you tell jokes, you can communicate with kids and with adults and with people in different languages. So really, it's about computer system that should be able to do all of that. So as you can see from this picture here, it's encompasses a lot of fields that even their titles sound pretty complex, like uncertain reasoning or meta reasoning and control. So developing of true AI is quite a difficult task. So how do we apply AI and where do we see AI applied today? So visual perception means recognizing images and understanding what those images are. For example, is this a cat, or is this a picture of a sandwich, or is this a picture of a bagel? Speech recognition means understanding the speech and translating it and understanding its intention and meaning. Decision making means selecting from different options to make a decision. Language translation, prediction, so predicting future events and the probability of future events. And the most, I think the hardest one is about creativity. Can AI truly be creative? Because human beings are creative. That is that part of human intelligence that is very, very elusive for AI. So how do these applications actually work today? So today we start to see some intelligent processes, which means a process is automated and it is using some AI applications to determine the next steps. We start to see large language models, like, of course, famous ChatGPT. So the language models that can understand natural language, produce natural language, and even write poems. We start to see reinforcement learning, which means you have machine learning algorithms that constantly learn from the feedback, from the results, from the decision that they are making and improving their predictions for the next time. We see emergence of decision intelligence, and it didn't necessarily go far enough yet, but decision intelligence is a pretty complicated topic. If you talk about prescriptive analytics, for example, optimizing business decisions, those optimizations can include quite a lot of different factors. So decision intelligence is still, we can say, in its emergent phase. Explainable AI, one of the really important trends for today is not only we are striving to build AI solutions and AI tools, but we want to make sure that we understand how those AI make decisions. And that's very important from the perspectives of avoiding discrimination and avoiding bias and ensuring equity. And if you cannot explain, for example, why one job candidate was selected over the other job candidate by the AI algorithm, if you cannot have a reasonable rational explanation for it, then we have a problem with non-explainable AI. And we actually know from some examples that some of those algorithms used to be biased. So really, if you think about it, all of these different applications you see on screen derive value from big data. And the reasons we can do more and more of AI tools today is because of proliferation of data, because of how much data is being produced today. Because a lot of these AI applications are only possible when you have a really large volume of data. So the success of models like ChatGPT relies on billions and billions and billions of texts and examples of articles and books. A success of those AI tools that start to produce more and more believable images is based on analysis of large volumes of images and pictures. So on one hand, you need big data to train these models. On another hand, of course, it brings with itself its own challenges. For example, the question of copyright, of ethical use of creative work of others, and so on. So right away, we can see how many challenges are there along with all these benefits. So big data, we talk about big data and that a lot of today's success of AI relies on big data. So big data means data that is too large in volume and in variety to be processed by traditional means, by, say, a traditional database management tools. So big data is characterized by these 5 V's that we call volume, velocity, variety, veracity, and value. So large volume of data produced at potentially very high speeds close to real time, so that's velocity. Huge variety, different formats, different sources, different types of data that we are receiving. Its veracity also has a really wide range, which means You don't always know where the data is coming from, how trustworthy it is, who generated this data. Is someone feeding this data to us on purpose to make our algorithm do something that we don't necessarily want it to do? So the trustworthiness of the data consumed by AI also comes into play. And finally, the fifth view of big data is value. And value of big data truly is not a given. It's not part of the definition. It's more the potential of what you can get from big data if you know how to use it. And this is truly what we are talking today about. To get advantage from modern technologies, from modern findings in how to build better and better machine learning and AI algorithm, first of all, we have to understand big data and how to get value from it, because without it, you cannot get value from AI. So, there's all the hype that we see today and we hear today about AI and how in a couple of years, nobody maybe will need to work anymore because AI will take over all of the tedious tasks. We hear it all the time. We hear that data science is a game changer and AI is shaping our future and data-driven companies rule the world and AI is the future of work. We hear a lot of these very, very optimistic statements and we fall for the hype. But I want to just step back for a second and I want us to look just a little bit more at the reality, right? So the reality is that while there is strong interest from many companies, and sometimes it's not even necessarily because I understand how I can use AI, but because I think that everybody else is using it and they have this fear of missing out, the FOMO plays pretty big role in it. So a lot of companies say that they are already planning to deploy AI and they're really hungry for using machine learning, for using chatbots, for using various AI technologies, and as soon as possible. However, a lot of companies also struggle with maturity. And at some point, Gartner assessed that pretty much half of the organizations and maybe more, it will take them at least a couple of more years to reach a certain stabilization stage. I'm not really sure. In 2025, perhaps this number will change again. It's hard to tell now. A lot of these predictions are not that scientific yet. They're more guesses. But I'll give you some examples of where AI doesn't look very confident yet. And I would not be very confident if I was a business owner seeing some of those headlines. So just recently, and I've done a fresh review of all the recent headlines, Amazon ditched its just walk out checkouts at its grocery stores. These were supposed to be the grocery stores where you just walk around, you pick things from the shelf, you put them in your bag, and you just walk out. And the store was supposed to have AI able to understand what is it you put in your cart and basically register it for you, and then later on you just get your receipt. But what it turned out, and I don't know if anyone's seen this story in the news, what it turned out that this AI algorithm, it was supported by thousands of workers in another country, outsourced, who were watching videos and manually making changes and updates and making mistakes and delaying the receipts. And some of the customers were receiving their receipts many hours later with errors, and overall it was pretty big failure, and that was all canceled. So if you think about it, and if you remember, there was this old joke, old video online, how you come to the front of an ATM to put your card in and you get your money back, and behind the ATM there is a person who is checking in a big book how much money you have on your account and manually counting money. So sometimes we see the front, but we don't really know what is behind it. And Amazon is a pretty big company, and unfortunately we can see from these examples, so it's not a given that it's working, right? And to me it was pretty surprising. Here is another example. Air Canada, I mean, a lot of people here are from Canada, was found liable for chatbots' bad advice. Also, very recent story, a person went and checked and asked the chatbot about a certain discount. I think it was for a bereavement scenario. And the Air Canada chatbot gave her a response and told her that she can get a discount. This person booked tickets, and later on, Air Canada representative told her that she's not entitled. And this went to small claims court, and Air Canada basically claimed that it's not liable for its chatbot, that it's its own legal entity, which ended up being not accepted by the court. And lo and behold, the chatbot is no longer there. So here is another example. We have a really big company with lots of resources, and what can be simpler? There's so many examples already of chatbots being developed and successful. However, there are some limits in how you apply them. And something went wrong here, and really badly, and basically it didn't work. So some of these failures, unfortunately, are not just failures in terms of, okay, the project failed, but they also are pretty bad for reputation of these companies, right? And, company like Air Canada or a company like Amazon probably doesn't want to be on the news all the time with these types of examples. At the same time, there are many smaller companies, and maybe they don't make their way to the headlines, but a lot of data science projects fail. And at some point, there was some statistics a couple of years ago that about 80% of all AI and data science projects either fail or never make it to production, right? So these are just some big examples, but of course, there is many more. And maybe some of you even have those examples from your own companies. Here is another example. Microsoft accused of damaging Guardian's reputation with AI-generated poll. This was pretty bad publicity as well. The article was about a sudden death of a young woman, and then this poll was auto-generated, basically speculating, guess what do you think is the cause of death, which was very insensitive and very, very, like it created a lot of rejection. And basically that was turned towards Guardian because this is what the poll appeared. However, it wasn't really done by them. It was just part of Microsoft's automated poll generation. Anyway, so there is another lawsuit, and another one is in the news. And this again is a large company, and it's Microsoft. Here is a wonderful and funny example. And if you know that AI that generates images is really bad at understanding negative instructions, if you tell it generate a picture without something, it's very hard. So this famous example, now there's a whole Reddit now on this topic of everyone trying to get one of those AI generating tools to create a picture of a room without an elephant in it. So this is Gemini. There is an image of an empty room with no element at all, no a single elephant in the room. Here is the one from ChatGPT. Absolutely no elephant anywhere in the room. Here is one from Midjourney. Like, look at all these amazing, fantastic pictures of different rooms. And I think this bot had a little bit of a, I guess, old Italian background in mind, but it just cannot generate a picture without an elephant. And that goes with many, many types of negative instructions. If you ask to generate a picture and then it puts something you didn't ask for, good luck trying to give the instructions to remove that out of the picture. It's really hard. So when we talk about true AI, true human intelligence, you take a little child and they will understand that this is not a correct picture, right? It doesn't follow the instructions, but AI does not understand. So this just gives us a little bit of a perspective without, of course, claiming that it's not going to be successful ever. Just gives us a little bit of a perspective that we have to understand the limitations. And I think it is part of our role because as business analysts, we always advise our stakeholders on the capabilities of technology because we have to manage the expectations. We have to help them formulate requirements. We have to help them understand what is realistic solution. And this is part of it, our understanding of what AI can and cannot do. Yeah, and I see Tanya got a person with 3 arms. Yeah, I have a lot of my own fields from Midjourney where I try to generate some pictures of people in the office. And even people who were standing with their backs to us still had a tie on their back, because everyone is supposed to have a tie in the office. And their hands and fingers, I mean, there's lots of examples where and this image generation really struggles. So these are just a little bit of illustrations for you to remember that there are limits to what AI can do. And therefore, we also have to keep in mind which tasks are appropriate and which tasks may not be appropriate here. All right, so if you really want to have some fun, go and grab your favorite image generating chatbot and see if you can generate a picture of a room with no elephant in it, and let me know if it works. Or go find that Reddit. You're gonna have a zillion responses right away, believe me. All right, so let's talk about AI today. Now, what is very important for you to understand is that there are two types of AI. There is narrow AI and general AI. So narrow AI is designed for specific task, for a narrow specific request, and it works on solving problems using data. Okay, so it makes quantitative predictions from large volumes of data, from analyzing similar scenarios, finding patterns, and then projecting those patterns to help you predict. So basically, if you think about it, narrow AI solves the problems framed as prediction problems. So it's all based on math, statistics, and most of it is supported by machine learning algorithms. General AI is the AI that performs a broad set of tasks that a human being is capable of. So basically, when we think of general AI, you have to imagine a computer system that is able to perform any instruction, even if it wasn't specifically trained to do that particular task. Because of course, the number of tasks is unlimited. And with narrow AI, you're training your algorithm for specific tasks, like responding to natural language, or like generating pictures, or like navigating through a room and vacuuming up the debris that is on the floor. And so these two types of AI are very set apart. And there's honestly a huge chasm in between them. And the reality of today is that all AI we have is narrow. We do not have general AI. Human beings did not achieve that level of success to actually create a computer system that can imitate human cognitive process, that can solve any problem that even a 5-year-old child can do. And all examples of general AI we have frankly come from sci-fi movies, from books, and so on. So if you think of anything, your smart speaker is narrow AI. You know, any type of technology you use to predict things like you're mapping your routes is AI. Self-driving cars are narrow AI. A DeepL translator is narrow AI. Any kind of example, even if you bring up an example of Sophia robot, which apparently impressed a lot of people, it is still a narrow AI. It's designed to respond to questions, but there are many other things that it cannot do. So we are still in narrow AI phase, right? And what we need to understand is that even those narrow AI solutions fail. Why do they fail? Again, lots of research was done, but if you take all of those articles and research together, I've highlighted a few common threads that keep coming through. Fuzzy objectives. We are not really sure what we are trying to achieve. We want to have AI. We want to have a chatbot. We want to appear very technologically advanced, but we are not really clear what do we want to use it for. Unclear requirements, right? So perhaps that chatbot over Air Canada didn't really have very clear requirements. Poor data management is a huge problem. AI, the way we have it today, is narrow AI. It needs data. It feeds on data. That's its fuel. The more data, the more potentially accurate your predictions are going to be. There is even a phenomenon that has a name. It's called unreasonable effectiveness of data, which tells you that with really large volumes of data, your predictive algorithm can become very efficient. However, if your data is poorly managed, if it's low quality, or if you have biased data, you're going to have some serious problems, and you may develop a very good machine learning algorithm. You have very talented developers, But if there is not enough quality data to train that algorithm, it is still not going to work. The other one is lack of expertise, and that's the expertise of data scientists and developers and data engineers, as well as lack of expertise and understanding also on stakeholders' side. And of course, this is where we also talk about business analysts and other people involved in these projects, and their expertise and their understanding of these technologies is also important for their success. Lack of trust and ownership. Now, this one is especially interesting with AI because, and again, anyone who practiced business analysis for a long time, you know that even just things like a process mapping sometimes gets our stakeholders up in arms because they feel like if someone wants to map their process, it means that there is a layoff coming through, that if they share and tell everyone about the process and it's documented, they will no longer be needed. So often stakeholders have a bit of a fear of business analysis because they look at it as the precursor to automation, which may lead to job reduction. Now, with AI, of course, we know for sure that some of the jobs may be made redundant, especially those repetitive jobs or, chatbots that are basically replacing many of customer service representative jobs and so on. So there is part of this that is true, but part of it is also fear. So that fear of AI and what does it mean for my job security or what does it mean for our company also leads to resistance, also leads to lack of trust. And of course, if that AI algorithm actually fails or makes really big mistake, probably that lack of trust can be also justified. And another one that I think we sometimes forget because we are so, and again, all the hype about ChatGPT and about generative AI took us away from much more reasonable and much more accessible way of using AI in your companies. And that's for embedded analytics, for optimizing your processes, for embedding more automation in your business process, right? Like all this, okay, let's use AI to take our meeting notes for us and stuff like that. That's all great and fine, but these are like little things. We could do much more, provide much more benefit if we use the data, for example, to take that like 3 steps in a business process and optimize that piece and automate that piece, because maybe there's enough data in the system to do that. We just never kind of want it. So sometimes we also make a mistake of not looking into like more mundane perhaps and less glamorous, but truly more useful and more cost-efficient ways of using AI. And that would be for process integration, for process automation with embedded analytics. Now, if you look at all of these reasons of failures, I suspect that they might sound familiar to you. Because as we think about 20 years ago, 10 years ago, Chaos Report and all the various reports that look at project failures, they constantly quote unclear objectives, unclear requirements, lack of expertise, lack of ownership, lack of communication as typical reasons why all projects fail. So in a way, AI projects are not that different. Perhaps there is even more emphasis on data quality, on data availability, on lack of that data science expertise, but a lot of other reasons why these projects fail are the same as for other reasons. And as you see here, the problems with unclear requirements, with unclear objectives are exactly the problems that we are supposed to mitigate with business analysis, right? So what is our role on these projects? Requirements. Nobody took that away. We still need to understand requirements. We still need to capture requirements. We still need to basically figure out what it is that this solution is supposed to solve. Data. We need to understand the data. We need to understand the data sources, requirements to data, and what data we want to use, what data we need in order to train the algorithm and in order to feed our machine learning and AI solutions. So our role in understanding data and capturing data requirements becomes really important. And managing business expectations. So helping business understand what are the appropriate uses for AI, which ones, again, will give them a better benefit versus cost, being more realistic about solving their problems, and again, maybe trying not to fall to the hype and instead think about things like cost management, like price reduction, like improving customer satisfaction with the use of AI. Your role in all of this is to become a guide to your stakeholders. And I mean, if you've met me before, you know, I always was advocating against thinking of documenting requirements as your main job, because we're not scribes, we're not writing things down, we're not secretaries. We have to do a lot of analysis to figure out the requirements. But with this, the more technological advanced potential solution, the bigger is maybe the gap between what stakeholders want and what is possible. So you also can become a guide who can lead them to better understand the capabilities of these AI solutions and the capabilities of technologies that they can apply in their business today. What do you need to be able to do that and to become that guide? So there is still a business analysis focus, of course, because you still need to be a really good business analyst. But also we will talk about the data focus and what kind of data knowledge and skills you need. So from business analysis perspective, domain knowledge, understanding of industry is even more important, because even data scientists, and if you ever seen a visual of what is data science, part of it is not just knowing mathematics and statistics and programming, but understanding the business domain. Because without understanding the domain, you don't understand which data is important, like which predictive factors you're going to look at, and so on. Understanding industry trends is still important, and analyzing competitive experience, including not making the same mistakes. Concept modeling. So your data knowledge comes from first understanding business concepts. So if you've never done a concept model before, conceptual data model, it's definitely time to start learning how to do it. Process analysis is still important, because oftentimes the most realistic application of AI is as embedded analytics. And if you want to check out, I just published a video recently on what is embedded analytics. It is about optimizing perhaps even a couple of steps in the process, or helping your human user, human operator make a better decision, because you deliver a very good prediction, a useful prediction at that moment when they need to make a decision. They don't need to go anywhere. They don't need to wait. They don't need to look through dashboards and navigate and drill through and scroll down and filter things. That's very tedious, and most people don't do it when they're in a rush. Instead, if you deliver the right insight to them as they're in this business process, it's much more likely that your basically data and insight is going to be used. So when you analyze process, you will determine where are perhaps the right spots to deliver those analytics insights. Things like a root cause analysis. You can use the machine learning algorithms for doing some data mining to determine root cause for various failures and business problems. Sometimes it would be quite unexpected, and the data can help you find factors that you may not even thought would be relevant, but they turned out to be relevant if you have a lot of data. Now, if you look at the data side, what do you need to understand? So you truly need to understand the data. What is structured and unstructured data? What are the different types of data? How to model data? How to capture the data? Understanding data governance, which we need to make sure that the data is quality, plus we need it to ensure data bias, to minimize data bias, to minimize discrimination based on how the data is captured, to manage data privacy, right? Because one of the potential pitfalls in using AI is violating privacy legislation. So understanding data governance is really important. Fundamentals of analytics. What are the different types of analytics? When are they useful? How to ask analytics questions. That actually helps you to create better analytics requirements, because your stakeholders probably are not going to be that great in formulating analytics requirements. We know they sometimes struggle with just procedural requirements, but analytics requirements are hard. Like if you ask them, what prediction do you need? to make better decisions. What will help you make a better business decision? They may need a lot of help to figure it out. So it's up to you. If you can help them and understand it and hold their hand, you're going to have much better analytics requirements. Types and applications of machine learning. What is supervised machine learning? What is unsupervised? What are those different types of algorithms good for? How much data you need? What type of data is required? And for what application can you actually use it? And finally, privacy and ethics, very important. We can call it whatever you want, non-functional requirements. There's privacy, there is security requirements. But it's becoming more and more vital that companies pay attention to it. Of course, we know that the first big companies kind of forged ahead. And there's a lot of now discussion around ChatGPT and OpenAI and what copyrighted materials they may have used without permission as one example. If you have any business with Europe, you should know that soon, probably in May, the first AI Act in the world, which is supposed to regulate AI technology, is going to become in force in Europe, in European Union, and many countries, of course, will follow. You know that Europe usually starts it and then everyone else follows. So there will be a lot more of emphasis on, does this AI solution potentially violate privacy? Is it ethical? And even things like machine unlearning. If your AI algorithm learned something it wasn't supposed to because the data was supposed to be private, can you make the algorithm basically forget it, right? And that's another very interesting direction that we see now. Sample applications. So you gaining those skills helps you to better understand how to apply it in your company, in your business. Because we are not all going to work for Google and Amazon. Most of us will work for, government organizations, bank, insurance companies, manufacturing companies, and so on. How can you apply it there? So embedded analytics, and I put it at the top because I think it's very important and it's undervalued. Embedded analytics means bringing analytics insight to the business person doing their job. So I'm here, perhaps all I do a whole day, I use CRM, or I am in accounting, I just use this accounting system, I review invoices, I process invoices. Don't make me go anywhere else to look for analytics. Bring it to me, give it to me, and the right analytics in the context. I don't want to enter criteria or filter things. So it is underestimated how much value that can bring. So definitely look into that and think about it in terms of process optimization and process automation using data. Chatbots. Yes, chatbots can provide a lot of efficiency, of course, taking into considerations all of those lessons learned from Air Canada and from other companies. Chatbots can provide a lot of routine responses to customers. Chatbot can even look up and provide database responses. For example, hey, Emily, what's my balance in the bank? Or hey, Emily, how much do I need to pay on my credit card? So instead of you going and looking through your bank app, you actually start asking chatbot those questions, and the chatbots can understand what you're asking. And if you're logged in, they can go and check your data, check your account, and give you that information. So chatbots can provide a lot of efficiencies. You just have to have those guardrails to understand where and how to limit that when human beings have to step in. And this way, you basically, maybe a chatbot can respond to 80% of your routine inquiries and frequently asked questions. And, I asked with this, I worked with a client who works in a real estate business in apartment rentals. And they say, you know what, we would really appreciate a chatbot which will respond to all the questions about whether pets are allowed in this building, because it's a routine question. The data is sitting there somewhere. You don't really need a human to tell you, yes, this building allows pets, this building only allows pets below 10 pounds, and so on. But there are other types of questions that are too difficult, and maybe you want to use your human resources, your personnel, the people who are still much smarter than chatbots to answer those most complicated questions. Recommender system. So we've seen those working on e-commerce websites where, based on customer analytics, we can recommend better products, different types of products, bundles, music, videos, and so on. targeted advertising, determining the needs of customers, what are they most likely interested in, again, based on their behavior or based on the behavior of other customers with similar characteristics. Fraud detection. So this is a huge one, and it will become even bigger because, you know, the more sophisticated AI algorithms become, the more a potential fraudster, they're also very smart people, will want to try and use that for their own purposes, right? So the more sophisticated technology we have, the more we should be aware that someone may be trying to use it for fraudulent purposes. So we have to use more and more sophisticated algorithm to detect that. Reputation management. If you have customers that may be posting reviews or are reviewing your product or chit-chatting on Reddit about horrible experience they had with this particular telecom services, waiting for an hour and a half, you know, to get to speak to an agent, you can use reputation management tools to collect the data and your AI tools to process those textual comments, extract sentiments, and basically give you a temperature check. Is something going on? A lot of my customers commenting on the latest product. Is everyone unhappy? So you can quickly analyze the chatter on the internet that is important to your company and to its reputation. Now, with all of that, what will AI do for you as business analysts and to make your life easier? Up to now, we all talked about how you can help your business. AI tools can help you if you use it smartly. It can help you increase productivity by doing routine tasks. It can take over some tedious tasks, maybe capturing rough meeting notes or maybe doing a little bit of scheduling. It can help you do better research, but again, if you do it smartly and you always check your sources and you don't ever blindly trust large language model doing research, because we know it also tends to hallucinate, but it can provide you with a lot of resources and give you the points. Then you just review those points. It can help you analyze faster because, again, it may do a lot of these routine tasks of data collection and information collection. It can help you dig deeper because as it summarizes the information, it may be easier for you to identify where you need to go, what are the potential gaps, where you would like to learn more. And by the way, a lot of the tools today, you can't only use for searching on internet. A lot of companies now adopting those similar tools to allow you to search through company knowledge base, like internal confidential knowledge base within its firewalls, and also generate basically knowledge base and knowledge trees based on internal documentation, internal resources, and it can really help you with training and with better analysis. It can help you validate requirements. And I want to study this a little bit more, how we can get an algorithm, validate a set of requirements and maybe look for contradictions or look for gaps and so on. And accumulating organizational knowledge, again, this is another type of task that modern AI tools already are pretty good at doing, but it still has to have some human supervision, okay? So there is a lot of things that you can use today as long as you're realistic and you remember how it fails, you remember where the limitations are, and you always check your sources, you always validate, and you basically don't do what that lawyer did who just asked ChatGPT for several examples to support their particular case. And they just grabbed those examples and submitted them to the court without even checking. And it turned out, it was in New York, it turned out that all of those examples were fake. They were fake, there were never such cases, and the lawyer got into big trouble. So the more you read, the more you are both positive and negative, right? The more you try to understand how it is used, why is it failing, or why is it working, the better you will be at advising your customers and advising your stakeholders about like what it truly can do, and really finding optimal ways to, perhaps you have a limited budget, or perhaps you don't have all of the data, thinking about what you could do with what you have, okay? If you want some book recommendations, I mean, there's so many books. These are just a few. I really like this book by Stephen Finley. It really explains to you how to do predictions. Bernard Marr, of course, has lots of videos and books. If you're a fan of Dan Brown, there is a book called The Origin that tells you a story of general AI, and it's very interesting interpretation of its master's requests. So if you haven't read it, if you're a fan of Da Vinci Code, read this other book. Remember also that there are books that help us to understand the limitations of AI, and read those as well. So try to be balanced and try to truly learn yourself so that you don't fall for the same traps. If you want to learn more about data, you can check out my course on data management and analytic fundamentals. So that one is basically for business analysts and business leaders to understand better what data can and cannot do, how to formulate data management requirements, how to formulate analytics requirements, and so on. If you're interested in my book, you can find it on all of these platforms. I also run a mentorship circle. It's a weekly meetup, intermediate group and experienced group, and we basically pick different topics from business analysis, and we talk about them, we exchange experiences, we discuss our frustrations, and so on. Everything is recorded, and even if you can't make it to our meetings, you can see the times here. You can also join a video-only version and basically get access to our video library. So I truly, truly do encourage you to learn and adapt and thrive, which is one of the principles of BA mindset, because the time does not stand still. And the last couple of years, we've seen so much change. We need to keep up. We don't have a choice. We have to keep up, but we need to also apply our critical thinking, right? To all of this news and all of the hype and all of the excitement, our critical thinking has to be there, and we have to be realistic, because we know most companies have limited resources, and some of them don't have all the data, and sometimes they only have limited time. And for some companies, it's actually very useful to start small, because the trust is not necessarily there. They're going to be scared to do something drastic. So if you do it little by little, small steps, you actually will have a much higher success with data science applications and with growing use of AI tools for your company and your business. So that is my summary of this topic, this very broad topic. I know we can talk for a really long time, but I did want to leave a little bit of time for questions. And I believe I saw someone actually generate. Oh, no, there is an elephant there, right? I see a picture and it has an elephant. Okay, so that didn't work, right? No elephant in House of Commons. Nice try. Thank you so much for listening. Any questions, any comments?
Thank you so much, Julia. I don't see any question yet in the chat, but feel free to indicate with a show of hands if you have any questions. Thank you, Julia. And just to summarize how Julia closed, think big, start small, and maybe I would add iterate often.
I just saw a question in the chat from Pierre about an example of using AI for tedious task automation or research. So I think that for research, definitely, if you think of any large language model, you can use it for research. For example, you can ask for an executive summary, or give me top 10 examples of this and this, or give me the most famous applications. And that's where your language model is going to search through all internet basically sources and give you perhaps just a quick research that of course you have to verify. That's external internet. I really like how companies start to use it more for internal research. Imagine you have that internal knowledge in your organization. In that case, you need to have like enterprise instance. So your company has to buy enterprise instance of something like Copilot, for example, and start training it on your internal materials. For example, if you have huge intranet or Confluence, or like lots of shared drives or SharePoint, and it's all hidden in folders and everywhere, you can gradually have that model scan all of your documentation and start tagging it, and then it will allow you to do your internal research. I know in legal profession, a lot more research is done, because if you need to look for case laws or look through difficult legislation, but that's where sometimes things fail, right? Because legal language is difficult. So today it's funny, just as I was getting ready for this and I was having my quick dinner, I opened up the news and there was news from New York State. And you know how different municipalities have lots of bylaws and legislation and regulations. And for small businesses, it can be overwhelming. So they created a chatbot that would allow anyone basically to ask questions related to legislation for small business and all of those rules. However, that one also was a bit of a failure. And it gave some really weird advice, including, when someone asked a question whether it's okay to serve customers cheese that was a little bit eaten by rodents, it actually said it's okay, but make sure you communicate it properly. So that one is a little bit iffy. Now, in terms of tedious tasks, I think this is even more interesting, right? Because if you think about a typical company, for sure, knowledge management is important and research is important. But if you think proportion of your human resources who are engaged, with research and knowledge management versus in a typical company, the percentage of your personnel who are in operations. For example, they are doing invoices, inventory, manufacturing, responding to customers. So all of those often are much more tedious. And this is where we can use embedded analytics. I mean, if you think about it, when we say AI, we truly now, what it really is a machine learning algorithm that predicts outcomes and either gives you classifies an event. For example, you get a customer request, it's going to classify, is it going to be a customer that's complaining or a customer that just wants to say hello, and will tell you, hey, pick up first the phone of the customer who is complaining, who is unhappy, because if you don't pick it up, then maybe they will just cancel their contract. So this type of classification algorithm, which is an application of narrow AI, can help you automate, for example, prioritization of calls. Instead of going chronologically, maybe prioritize it based on importance. If you are a person who needs to, you get case by case after case and you need to look up information, a very simple application would be to, based on your context, for example, who's my customer, what's the date today, is it month's end or not, so whatever those important factors are, will get you the insight, go through all the systems, find the right information, bring it to you. Instead of you thinking of looking for things, it's going to give you like 2-3 pieces of data or prediction so that you just make a decision, or it's easier for you to make a decision. So this type of embedded analytics, I think, is really helpful to actually alleviate tedious tasks. Because if you think about it, searching for information can be a pretty tedious task, right? If the information in your organization is not well organized, if you have too much of it, if you have 250 dashboards and you keep renaming them and keep moving them around and keep changing colors and nobody can remember where to go, or if things move around in SharePoint, it can be even tedious. So delivering that information to me can help. On top of it, of course, manufacturing, and so on. That's where there's lots more. So hopefully I gave you a few ideas.
Thanks, Julia. We have Stuart here. He says, this is great content. I think this makes more work for us as business analysts. We will need to do more work to be interpreters between the AI and our business stakeholders. What exactly are users trying to find and get from the vast matrix of data? He's asking, those are kind of things we should be thinking about. It is important to know the vision and the goal before you start. The BA is very crucial here, I think. He says, his question now, do you have other examples of this?
Yeah, I think, and that's a really good comment. And I think that we have to be advisors to business, and we have to, I think, help them avoid, focusing on data. Data is the enabler. They still need to focus on what do they need to solve. For example, I want to be able to provide my customers with accurate information through the chatbot. I want to be able to predict which of these phone calls is most important. So sometimes our customers, you know, when we say that customers like solutioning, when they start solutioning things, even when thinking of data, they are not necessarily, you know, thinking of the best solution because their ideas are going to be limited by the exposure, right? So we always have to bring them back to what do you truly need to decide here. And it's not about what information you need. Don't tell me what information you need. Tell me what decision do you need to make? What is an important decision? Because if you think about it, it's these decision points where we need information most. Because if I just keep going forward, there's no deviation. I need to make a decision if I have two options and I don't know which option is better. So if you're doing, for example, process optimization, ask them about what outcome is the best. For example, what are we optimizing? Are we optimizing how fast you need to go to your destination? Are we optimizing you want to have the cheapest way to get to the destination, or you want to get to the destination by using less gas and so on? So those success criteria, this is what they need to think about, because they provide us with basically parameters that then will become part of this model, and we have to keep orienting them to the goal, not necessarily I want to have a chatbot just like our competitor. And I think that's where, you know, we sometimes fall for the same. So don't ask them about what data they need. Ask them what decisions they need to make, what actions they need to take, and what would be the best decision. And based on that, you would have to work with data scientists and with data engineer to figure out what data actually is required for that. I hope that answers your question, Stuart, at least a little.
So finally, I just want to say thank you to Yulia. It's a great pleasure to have you here. And for other executives in IBA like Marcos, Aaron, and others that I don't know their names right now, I just want to say thank you for attending, and we really appreciate you.